Going live. I'll tell you when.
Yeah, you just cue me with a big finger.
Hey, you're live.
Are we live?
We are live.
Took us a little bit longer than we'd like, but good afternoon to Europe and good evening in Perth and good night in Melbourne and wherever you are. Thank you for joining me. Well, it was a big morning. I left the track at about 1:30. Things were well and truly finished, but boy, up until that point, and I trust many of you have watched my video that I've already posted tonight about what happened, but I'll give you a little bit of a rundown, then we'll go to some of your questions and see if we can answer them for you. So I woke up, having put up a post the night before saying that it looks like it's going to be cancelled, to see this BBC story saying set to be cancelled today. So I ran a story, got straight in the car, went to the track, grabbed my stuff out of my locker in the media centre and went out into the paddock, which was quite quiet. There was a few photographers there, a few TV crews. We're wandering around trying to get any information. Ross Brawn comes in, he wouldn't comment on it, and as soon as they won't confirm that we're racing today, you know that there's problems. So it was I didn't want to go on my page and say, hey, it's definitely cancelled, because you look like a fool if it doesn't get cancelled. And hence we were looking for different signs in the paddock, and those signs were the fact that only 5 of the teams had sent their crews in. Remember that there's a curfew, so 3 hours before FP1, which is 9 a.m. for a 12 p.m. FP1, all the teams are allowed in. So only 5 teams went in, and then we had a few other guys from Red Bull, lots of management from Red Bull and marketing people, but only a handful of mechanics. And then a lovely fellow and I had a chat for probably a minute as he walked. He's one of the crew for one of the teams, and he said, look, I rang my friend who works at McLaren, and last night they were all of his mates, a handful of mates, and I'm thinking it's probably a dozen or so of the pit crew, were all given their own hotel rooms in a Melbourne hotel and told, you're there for 14 days. You are quarantined, because of course they had one of their mechanics test positive to the virus. So that obviously ruled them out, and they already said last night, the night before, that they weren't going to be racing. And then there was no McLaren, there was no Ferrari, there was no Mercedes crew, no Renault, and a couple of the other guys from different teams would come up and say, hey, has this team come in? Have you seen that? And funnily enough, I only saw one driver. That was Daniel Kvyat, and I was actually walking back from the gate where I'd gone out to photograph all of the spectators who were gathered out the front, and he drove past. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe this is the first of the drivers. But I didn't actually see him get out of the car, and I'm not sure he did, and I'm told that he didn't actually go into the paddock. So I just happened to glimpse him. He drove in, and I lost sight of him, and I don't know what happened thereafter. But there were a lot of people out that front gate. I'm thinking a few thousand, and they were all very calm. Now, I thought they might have been getting angry because they'd been waiting there some time. They were getting no information, and I know that because a number of people commented on some of my posts saying, we're out the front here and no one's telling us anything. They were letting people in, but it was only staff and media, people who hadn't bought a ticket. So for those people, I imagine now there is an exercise they're going to have to go through to get their money back for the tickets that they pay for. And as you may already know, if you've been on social media, about 15 minutes ago, Formula One announced that Bahrain and Vietnam had been postponed. I believe Vietnam might go in between the middle of what is now the summer break, because there won't be a summer break as far as I can tell. I'm not sure whether they can fit Bahrain in, and they're saying they would like to get the season started late May. If that's the case, late May is after Monaco and RA2. Somebody told me that they were an F1 Paddock Club guest, and they were bussed in, because they park in a certain spot, they were bussed in, taken up to the Paddock Club suite, and then sometime later were told, no, now we're taking you back because it's game over. So it was a pretty frustrating day. I feel sorry for those concession sellers who paid big money to be at the track to sell all their t-shirts. All their stock was ready to go, no customers. I do actually know that one of them sold 3 shirts. Now that wasn't to a spectator, that was to obviously a worker. So let's go and have a look at what comments we're receiving here on this iPad. Ty?
Before we do that,
yes, Tyler.
2 questions. One, how's the delay? It looks reasonable from my end.
Let's have a look.
A clap would be great, actually.
No, I just did a finger snip, and that's
Fingers
probably
a bit hard.
about...
I'm going to get myself a
Okay.
clap.
Arcadia wants to know where my son is. Well, he's just out of shot here, but if you stick your head in, Tyler, you might be able to see. Yeah, okay. Well, you can probably see them on yours. So let's have a look at some questions. Bree, have you got any questions that you have picked out?
No, not yet.
Right, she's of no interest to us at the moment. Can you ask your son not to type so loudly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There we go. Thank you for that. I'm from the Netherlands, says Cleo van der Lind. Right, you just popped into screen then, so that's a fair delay, isn't it? Yeah. I'm really excited to probably host the first race of this season as a returning Grand Prix, but I'm absolutely devastated that the first 4 races probably will not happen. I think every F1 fan is devastated. Every person today that was waiting at that front gate and all the other gates around the track has a story. Some have driven 800 kilometres, some have flown from Germany, others have spent an hour. Some people might have bought tickets on the black market and they're not going to get their money back. That's a shame. And you just got to think, who has lost that money? There's a lot of money at stake here, and it's going to be very interesting in the wash-up to see what happens. And I think you'll find that the reason, I haven't had a chance to watch Ross Brawn's interview, which I saw tonight. Tyler, you might want to get some more batteries for this light because it's flashing. They're in my bedroom. Okay. My apologies, people, you're going to have to put up with that while we change the batteries on this light. So I think you'll find that there was an issue with who would take responsibility. Bree, you can turn that light off for a second, and we'll just wear the fact that that's going to be a little bit annoying to those people watching. So just take it. Just take it to Tyler. Sure. So now I'm a little bit dark. You'll have to bear with me on that. Kim, you think there's any chance of them doing the Oz GP later in the year? I don't know that there is a spot for the Australian GP. Unless they... No, because you've got to go... It's got to be somewhere in the region. Maybe if they did Australia and then back-to-back with Vietnam. But certainly... Or maybe back-to-back with Singapore. But then Singapore runs back-to-back with Russia. So it's really a tricky exercise. And this microphone is so good that you'll be hearing Tyler putting those batteries in. Do you think cancelling the race is a positive or a negative? Well, you're only going to have 9 teams running in that particular event, obviously with McLaren out. It was just so sad that it happened so close to FP1. What were we, 2 and a bit hours out from it? But they were working all night, and they finished, I think, up at 2:30, and then they had a few hours sleep and came back. But I can just imagine you would have had lawyers on both sides working out, hey, we don't want to cancel it because we'll be responsible for the cost. You cancel it. No, you cancel it because we don't want to be responsible for the cost. I imagine it was a fair Mexican standoff there for some time. If you want to go to the head of the queue, by the way, jump in with Super Chat because it looks like there's quite a number of questions here. What have you got, Bree?
Katie said, never heard a female voice on this channel before.
No. And she's wearing her pajamas too, so she probably won't come around this side. There's a couple of other women here, and thank you to Tyler. Now, let there be light.
How's that?
That's going to be much better, I think. Realistically, do you think Baku will go ahead? Yeah, I think it will. I think Baku, it will be the first race, providing that this disease hasn't taken hold of the whole world. Virus, not a disease, of course. That is a beautiful home, Mad Max says. Natalie, do you want to come in and take a bow? Come on. Mad Max has complimented you on your beautiful home. Come on. Natalie has come to one race with me. She's come to Mexico and assisted me with editing and also carrying some gear around. And she couldn't believe how much exercise was involved, did you?
Absolutely not. I thought I was fit until I was helping Kim out in Mexico City, and I was actually running behind him. I was absolutely
complaining
exhausted.
Most of the way too.
But I was a complete pack horse. I was actually helping out and carrying all of the equipment.
Well, there's no free rides.
No, of course not.
So thank you for providing this lovely setting for
my pleasure.
Tonight and last night's live stream. Thank you. And breakfast at 7, please. Feel bad for the whole F1 community, says Michael Samet. Yeah, everyone has a story to tell. I don't think there was a winner today. There was no winner out of what went on. Every driver was disappointed. Every team has invested money for no return. Every punter has had to go and make their way to the track to be turned away. Concession sellers, as I mentioned, they were still delivering food this morning. Now, that's a crazy situation there. All that corporate hospitality now goes begging. I don't know what happened to that. Which teams didn't want to cancel? I was told that there were 5 said yes and 5 said no. I don't know obviously McLaren would have said, I don't want to race, but we can only speculate, and so we shan't spend any time on that. Any missed GP this year should be replaced later in the year, and with a 1-week head-to-head event spread across a week and a race. Look, I don't think that's possible. I just don't think that you could get all of the cancelled races into the available time, unless you ran it right up to Christmas, and that would be foolish, I'd suggest. So somebody is going to lose out. Yes, you pay money to get your question answered because there's 2 more questions than I have time to answer. So if you want to beat the system, you go to Super Chat and bid a couple of dollars, whatever it is, and then I have no option but to answer your question. It would be rude of me not to answer it.
The Skull Knight asked which teams didn't want to cancel.
Yeah, and I just mentioned that I can't tell you with any great certainty who they were. But it was amazing though, and it was pointed out to me that, hey, there's only 5 teams here out the front. There was no Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, Renault or McLaren. And all of that freight that was sitting around in the paddock, as soon as you walked into the paddock, you looked at it and thought, right, this is so much different to normal. We're not doing anything today. It looked like at the end of testing in Abu Dhabi, when all the stuff is just laid out end to end down the paddock because they just don't care. So that to me was a really big sign. And of course the Alfa Romeo garage crew all having breakfast, sitting around for 30 minutes having breakfast out the front of their hospitality suite. Do you think the season 2020 will be cancelled? Says Ole FJ. Well, they don't want to cancel the whole season, I'm sure of that. And I think it would do grave damage to the sport. Is your camera still on, Ty? I've lost the signal.
The screen cut out.
It would do great damage to the competition. I think the casualties would be enormous financially. But if coronavirus gets worse and you can't race, you can't race. Who would have even thought that that was an issue? It depends too on how these contracts are written. For instance, with Paddock Club and all that sort of stuff. What does the contract say if there is no race? Who loses the money? Because someone is going to be losing money. Right, what have we got here? What would happen if the driver got a virus? Well, he would be quarantined for 14 days and the reserve driver would step in. So Sebastian was quarantined. The reserve driver there is Giovinazzi. So he'd get himself a ride. I'm pretty sure he's Giovinazzi. He would get himself a ride in a Ferrari. And that's why I thought at 2,000 to 1 odds of winning the championship, if Antonio happened to step in for Seb because he got the virus all year, well, he might be a great bet. Let's have a look. What else have we got here on your chats? All drivers in a pro go-kart in 40 laps. It's not going to happen, is it? It's not going to happen. I'm in love with that girl, says tag 2 TZG. Well, she's now disappeared. Oh, okay. What else can I tell you here? It's been announced that the season will start at the end of May. Yeah, we just mentioned that earlier on, but is that after Monaco? Because Monaco was on the 24th of May. And if we miss Monaco, that's the glamour event of the year. That's going to hurt that community. And there's also the issue of accommodation and airfares. Excuse me. Can I have a glass of water, please, Ty?
Yeah, sure.
There are so many people who have booked, like me. I've booked a lot of my flights and accommodation for the whole year. Most of it I've booked as refundable, pay a slightly higher rate, but know that you can get your money back. And it turns out that that's a prudent decision for my first 5 or 6 races, depending on how we go here. But there'll be a lot of people who can't get their money back and I'm not sure that travel insurance would cover that. So that's another huge cost. Let's have a look here. Oh, okay, I've missed all these shivers. Right.
What have you missed?
I didn't realise that there was all these questions down below. Yeah, I'm sure that if they are insured for this type of crisis, the health of the fans and teams is more important. Says 12. No, that's Io Nut Radu Voicer. Scarf appears by magic. Yes. Wuhan, says Arcadia. Arcadia, you must be the most prolific poster on this live stream, I think. Let's get the drivers on iRacing. Somebody else suggested that earlier today, and do the Australian GP online. And what about that story too that Kimi and Seb got on an Emirates flight to Dubai at 6 a.m. and somebody actually sent me a manifest that showed both of their names, but now I'm surprised that hasn't been either confirmed nor denied. And it would be easy to confirm, because just somebody in a news agency in Dubai would go to the airport and greet that flight and see if those two gentlemen got off that flight. How much say do the drivers have in this situation? I don't know. I'll be interested in what you think. I think they would be asked, but I'm almost certain it's probably a team decision. I don't think they'd be involved in any meeting with the FIA. They have a drivers' meeting on Friday evening just to talk about the race, but I wouldn't have thought they would have got too much say in which races go and which don't. And somebody mentioned, I asked today a couple of photographer mates, have you ever been involved in this situation before? Both of them that I asked said the only time was the Saturday last year in Japan with a typhoon, but that was one day, it wasn't a whole event. And that ended up being nicely resolved by running quali on the Sunday morning, which was pretty interesting and a very busy day.
Go to your computer and use it
okay.
like normal.
Good, so you can find a
but
picture.
I can find it, yeah, so you can tell me and then I can go looking, and if I can't find it.
Your choice of beer, Kim, Sam Taylor. I don't drink beer. I've had 2 glasses of beer in my life. I'm not a fan of it. What else?
You've got a question from someone asking if you can do basic photography tutorials.
I have done a couple, I think on YouTube going back a little while. I've done a little bit on motion blur. Yeah, possibly. Something to consider. And it looks like we might have some months in front of us with no real new content. You cough, Mr. Kim, take care, but it's not a cough, it's just clearing my throat. It's a bad habit that I've got that my son's developed. Naturally, we are concerned about our money, but we need to understand that we're all in this together, says Nick Barak. We all have to bear the load. Yes, we do. And I did think, as a lot of people commented today, when all of those people were standing out the front, all tightly packed, and the FIA was saying, oh, in the interest of our patrons, we can't let them in, but we can keep them corralled, and they're in very close confines, so that if 1 or 2 of them has this particular disease, they have the likelihood of passing it on to some others. But it was what it was, and I don't even know what the crowds were like at some of the other gates. I went to gate 1. I imagine that's probably the largest contingent of people waiting, and they all streamed off the train, just backed up, and that's twice she's dropped her bloody phone back there. Last warning. Considering that mechanics usually have very little free time and it's one of the few weeks in the year they can go on holiday with their family, says AVB. What's that about? Maybe that referenced something else earlier in the thread, because I don't read all these questions, so if you want to get your question to the head, go to Super Chat and that will confirm that you get your question answered. What shutter speed do you normally shoot at? There's no normal shutter speed. It can be anything from a 4,000th or an 8,000th of a second if you really want to freeze some fast-moving action. Say Eau Rouge, at the bottom of Eau Rouge, when you're panning so quickly with the car, you need a very high shutter speed if you want a sharp shot. It can be a 1/4 of a second if you want something arty, where you follow the car and at the last minute or last fraction of a second, jerk the camera up and put some lines. You might have seen those sort of shots. So there's no common shutter speed. Hey, says Miriam from Perth. I love Perth. I go there every couple of weeks. I'm a travel agent in Perth. Cancellations and insurance policies are crazy at this time. Let me know if you need anything. Shout out to Perth. Yes. I'd be interested, Miriam, to know whether the majority of policies would cover, hey, I bought tickets to an event. See, I think they'll get their money back from the organiser if they bought a ticket and couldn't get in. So, it's an interesting situation, isn't it? Will every race be delayed and Abu Dhabi hold on Christmas Eve? Yeah, I don't think they'll do that. I think she's all over by early December normally, and they'd want it that way. And you can't make any more weeks in the year. You can't make more time, unfortunately. Have you seen the interview with Ross Brawn? No, I haven't. I only found it just shortly before we started getting some technical difficulties we had to sort out. So I will have a look at that. I'll be interested to hear what he said. If you can do a quick précis in 3 sentences of what the gist of it was. Where do the F1 teams go from Melbourne to Bahrain? They won't go to Bahrain. I'm absolutely certain of that. They'll just go heading back straight to where they come from. A lot of the photographers today in the morning, once the announcement had been made and they got their photos out to their agencies or wherever they had to get them out, they were all changing their flights. A couple of them stayed on until Monday. I know a couple of drivers are still hanging around until Monday because they have nothing more pressing to do. And you might have seen today, I think Charles was at the water ski park, the surfing park. Roman Grosjean was that, maybe he was there too. I think I saw a picture on his Instagram. Anyway, it's not hard to work out where they are. They pretty much advertise the fact on all their social media pages. Have you ever done professional videography? No, says Akbar Kabir. No, I'm not much good at video in terms of shooting it. My son's a little bit better than I am at. What do we got? What do you think of Seb and Kimi leaving first thing in the morning? I just mentioned that earlier, that I'm not sure that actually happened, but if they knew it wasn't going ahead, they're fine to leave. Bit of a giveaway though, if they let it be known that they were leaving. Imagine if you were a bookmaker and you were taking bets on that and you had that information. It's a bit like past posting, knowing the result. Audio, video not in sync, Tyler, says somebody.
Yeah, it's my previous though is very close, and I don't want to tinker with it too much more and get it miles out.
So for those people that are having issues with that and it's annoying them, just close your eyes and treat it as a podcast.
Or if it's really bad, let me know. I'll clap and I can try to fiddle with it some more.
If we get 4 people say it needs to be fixed, Tyler can do some manipulation. What else did I find interesting today? Just not many people around, except for that press conference at the end of the day, which they had down at 11:45 and it ran pretty close to time. And everybody was in this big arc. We had Chase Carey, we had Michael Massey, and we had the 2 gentlemen from the Australian GP. They all stood in a line. They answered questions, and some of them were straight up front, like Bahrain, Vietnam, what's happening with them. And they were good. They said, look, at the moment, we're focusing on this drama here. We'll get to that later, but we're not going to cloud that issue, or the one we've got here, with that issue. And I thought they handled it pretty well. It's pretty much a no-win situation when you're faced with that sort of thing. And they had to make a decision. It's their business, and I think it's probably the right thing to do. Tyler?
I was going to ask you the same. If I was going to ask a question, it was about that, because I get the media emails as well as a tech. And the media email notification just said, we're going to have a press conference with these 4 people. It was just that, and it also said everyone who is going to be at the press conference must stand behind the barriers.
Yes.
And I thought that to be very funny.
And I go on to another matter here. I had pre-written an announcement that the race had been cancelled, and it was ready to go on Instagram. And I just happened to look at my phone the moment that the email came through from the FIA, and that goes out to everyone pretty much instantly. And as soon as I got that, I read it, and it took me 20 seconds to read it, and then I read it again, because often I read stuff and I think, oh, I want it to say that, and I think it says that, and I go and post something, and I look back and go, oh, misread it, what a dick. And I read it again, thought, right, definitely it's cancelled. So I put my post up, but I didn't put much detail in it. It was just a picture, definitely cancelled, and put that up. And then it went crazy, that post. And then I went back in and I copied the text from that particular press release, and I put that in, and I saved it. And then as the morning goes on, I add more to it. So that's the way I normally operate. Get something up quickly so that people start sharing it, and then add information to it for those people who are interested in that. Audio video is in sync for me in Canada. Beauty, says Ajit Dyer.
Valerie asked if you think there's a chance that they'll cancel the whole season.
Yeah, there's a chance.
Yeah.
There's definitely a chance. If the coronavirus stays the same or gets worse, there's a chance. But you can't, well, I guess you can plan for it, but you can't affect it. It's a bit like, I think, stopping the tide. You'll never stop the tide. You just got to work around it. All the marshals weren't getting updates either, and they were all there nice and early too. Yeah. See, it's tricky because you've got so many different groups, and you've got people who are going and making decisions based on, yes, we're running, so they'll go and order more food at 10 o'clock. They might order some more stuff because they haven't been told that it's not going ahead. And there's always a story of, oh, if they just told me 5 minutes earlier, but they can only tell you when they come to a decision. They have to do it en masse. They can't let you know and then you know and then you know, because it becomes a Chinese whispers thing. So, yeah, I understand the fact that they've got to get it out. They've got to make sure all their T's are crossed and I's are dotted so that they don't get into trouble. It's not a job I would like to have to do. Great show you all do, says Mike Farrell from Houston, Texas. Never been to Houston, been to Dallas, been to Austin. Maybe Houston next time where the Oilers play. Chase Carey seemed really upset, nervous and not happy at all. He'd just come from Vietnam, so I imagine he was there to talk to them about having to cancel their race or postpone it. Because obviously they've got a brand new track, they've spent a lot of money, it was their big launch, and they're not going to get it. Maybe they will get it in the middle of the summer break, which would be nice, because that's one of the closer races for me to go to. Thoughts on double header at same tracks, and that's what I thought was going to happen in Bahrain. So I actually booked airfares to come back on the Monday after the first race and the Monday after the suggested second race. So those will have to be cancelled tomorrow or on Monday. Oh, any explanations for the Minardi running this morning with corporates? Now, you may not have known this, and I was surprised to hear it running around track. This is the two-seater. I think it's Paul Stoddart's two-seater. Paul and I have the same birth date, and I saw him today. And that actually crashed, came off the track. It didn't hit, I don't think it hit a barrier, but it went into the kiddie litter, and I just glanced up at a replay, and I thought maybe it had some damage, and I think if you search that on the net, you might even find that.
Do you want me to have a look?
Well, you can have a look, see if you can find it.
Do you know if there was someone else in the...
Oh, there was no doubt. Well, I guess there was a corporate person in there. But yeah, that was quite interesting. And when I look back, as I did tonight, I looked at all of the comments on the 5 or 6 posts that I did today, and there was so much conjecture. Oh, no, it's definitely running because a marshal said this. No, this person said it's definitely running. This person said it's not running. Oh, it's already been announced that it's canned, but it hadn't. It was just, it's going to be canned. Let's pick another question here.
While you pick another question, I noticed that there's about 50 or 60 people in the chat section regularly posting.
Yeah.
We have 450 people watching.
That aren't commenting.
We want to hear from everyone.
Yeah.
Every single person that's listening, because it's about a conversation, not just you talking at people. Okay,
so perhaps even if you just go and put where you're from, and I'll focus on you for a minute, and we'll look at where people are posting from. Kedia, all right, I want you to stop for a second because you're hogging it, Art. You're just abusing your privilege here, and apparently the Oilers were a long time ago. So let's have a look. Brie Del Borello is from Melbourne.
Yeah,
Jello Feliciano was on last night too. What's your plans for the next 2 months? I'm going back to work and my company of messages on hold. Jack Russell and Thumbs. Jack Russell, Kalgoorlie. What are you doing? Oh no, it's only 10 o'clock in Kalgoorlie, where the super pit is. Were there plans to photograph the V8s over the weekend? Sam Taylor, yes, there were some photographers sitting around me in the media centre who were there. Oh my God, no, that's too quick. Art Kedius from Singapore, Jack O'Dwyer from Ireland, the Ugly Duckling from South Africa, Matt Vesey from Perth, Pete Verrill, I'm listening. C.R. Sass, have you at any point felt unsafe? No, I haven't felt unsafe, except with a couple of... What is that?
Why is my phone going off? Oh, that's your phone.
Adrian from Denmark, Vimbai from the UK, Nicola Fox, all hit the like button. That's what she says. Tim from the Netherlands. I'm so excited about going there. I really want to go there. I booked a beautiful hotel. I'm having a dinner, so I'm going to have to work out what we do with that. Zane's from the Maldives, living in Sri Lanka. Arks apologise for hogging it. Lithuania, Killy Jonas, and I apologise if that's not correctly pronounced. Thilo Morang from the Netherlands. Sjors Groef, did I say that right? From Netherlands? Because sometimes I'll say Holland and then I get corrected. It's not Holland, it's the Netherlands. Romania, Vossum's from Romania. France, Ben Kirby from England. Cortland from the UK, where it is 1 p.m. Now, I imagine Lando's probably back home by... Oh, no, he wouldn't be back home yet, would he? Joe Arnold in San Francisco, by the bay. Daniel A. from London. Marlene from Germany. Matthew Shaver from California. Oh, my first Egypt follow-up.
Never seen anyone from... Oh, yes, I've seen one person from
Ayman
Egypt.
Nasir. Went to your country, loved it. Except it was very interesting. You had a guy on the back of the boat up the Nile with a machine gun there, keeping us safe. Rajan Patel from India. Danny from Melbourne, probably just around the corner from us. Went to the rain room today in Melbourne. That's a great thing. Emily from Germany. Emily is a champion. I met Emily in Budapest, her and Cassie. A couple of amazing young German women who love their Formula One and who need a ticket to a couple of events this year. Alona, I have to contact you about something as well, which you'll know about. What do you make of Lewis Hamilton's comments? Says Mohammed Mahmoud. Was that about not thinking that we should be raced and it's all about the money? I don't know.
You've got a
Super chat. We should have a hooter.
Can you see it?
No.
We usually do, but unfortunately...
Where do I see it? No. Jesus, look at all these comments. Oh, yeah.
Going too fast. You got it?
Laxwi? Sick. What currency is that? Don't forget to plug Super Chat. Hello from Sweden. But I got to like this man. He has paid money to tell me to promote the fact that people can pay money to get their question elevated to the head of the queue. And I will wax lyrical about Laxwi, who I imagine is paying in kronas. That is the currency. And another super chat I see is there. Raymond Jubb, Newcastle, UK. Big fan of your work on here on Insta. Do you think teams will be allowed to continue development of their cars during the quiet period? I don't know. I would like to know the answer to that, but I don't. So Raymond from the United Kingdom in Newcastle. Or do you say Newcastle? I would say Newcastle, but you probably say Newcastle. Thank you for your question. Whoa, this is a tricky one. Solivagan Rajat. I think I got the surname right. And I guess you're from India. Yes, I love your content. We wish to have an Indian Grand Prix. Again, we are passionate fans of F1. Have you been to India? Yes, I went to Mumbai. I went and photographed at the open air laundry. Loved it. And also photographed wildlife out at Bandar National Park. Very hot. But thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was great photographing the tigers. So thank you from India, from Solavagant Rajat.
Jello? I think it was Jello. Just asked an interesting...
Feliciano.
Yes.
He was on last night. He's asked several questions.
He just asked us an interesting one.
Do I stick to one airline?
Yeah, exactly.
Qatar, Emirates, year before last, and the year before last, and half of last year, and then and a bit of Qantas, obviously, but Qantas don't fly very much out of Perth overseas. And this year I've booked a lot of Qatar flights, and I quite like them. But I also flew back Thai Airways the other day on a lovely plane, so a little bit of everything. So the F1 corner is from Thailand. I stopped briefly there at the airport for an hour and 10 minutes. Didn't think much of the lounge. Carla's from Portugal, where you have beautiful waves in that town with a lighthouse. I want to go and photograph that. No, Ark, you're not allowed to chat again. Boss, how much you earn as an F1 photographer? That is not important. From Malaysia, I miss having Sepang in the calendar. I like Malaysia. I like the race. It was bloody hot, like Singapore, and it was in the middle of the day. If you want to jump the queue, get onto Super Chat, as these people have done. Is Netflix making a season 3? Yes, they were out and about, and my God, can you just search on my Lightroom for Netflix, because I took a picture of the camera guys the other day. Is there 2 cameras? A guy with 2 cameras?
Yeah.
Actually show that one. No, go back and show that one there. No. This is one of the rigs that these guys have to carry around, and you won't see this obviously because you'll only see what they shoot, but look at this, just go full screen on that F.
Yeah, sure.
That's a fair bit of kit that somebody has to walk around with. And of course, when they're walking backwards and the driver's walking towards them, they bugger up our shots all the time, which is a disappointing thing. But I don't mind so much when I get to watch the show back, and it is a brilliant show. And I can't wait to see what they do with the last 2 days that they were here. I don't think, no, they were on Wednesday and Thursday. So Netflix season 3, it is a ripper. Should Albert Park be open to the public on Sunday for a track day? I have no idea, but my brother-in-law was telling me that they've already pulled down a lot of the stuff this afternoon, so they weren't mucking about. They got straight onto it. Netflix camera guy was crazy. There's not one, there's several. Ever considered photographing MotoGP? No, I have not. I see some beautiful pictures, but no, I think F1, I just like that for the moment. Do you know what position the McLaren team, the positive coronavirus person, held? Says Anson Aerodash.
Good question.
I don't.
I understand he was a mechanic.
I think it was a mechanic, and I could find out if I could find my mate's email address or text him, and I will endeavour to do that. But whoever he was, he's also cost his mates some valuable time in a hotel room for 14 days. Thankfully, it's got a window. Imagine if you're on one of those cruise ships and you had to have an inside cabin and you couldn't go out for 14 days and you had to share it with 3 or 4 of you and your family. Wouldn't be much fun. Dan Lee, hello. Might have been Malaysia, but Singapore, because they often have safety cars and that causes them to have to race a bit longer. And what was the second question of that?
The second part was, which one is the most fun? Which one do you find most fun?
Oh, there's a question I'm going to go back to that I've just seen that I'll answer. Most fun? Oh.
Monaco, right?
Monaco I like. I just like Monaco. But I also have a fondness for Baku. Yeah, I quite like the city and the fact that it's on the Caspian Sea. Now, I saw a question here. Any truth to the rumour that around 1,000 paying guests, corporate general admission winners and other guests were in the track at about 7:30? I think that must be true. For 2 things. A, that Minardi was running around, and obviously that's for corporates who pay big money. And secondly, because somebody said that they were bussed in, taken up the Paddock Club and then bussed out. So I don't know whether they're going to get a pro rata refund for their day today or whether they just get nothing back. Remember, Super Chat if you want to jump the queue here, because I'm not going to get to all of these questions because I keep finding more and more down the bottom here. What an unfortunate waste of resources with the situation at Albert Park, says Henry. Pine, bloody coronavirus. I hope racing will be back soon. I think everybody hopes it's back soon. It's a year or so away before a vaccination is out that would stop it. Otherwise, it's...
I think that they have a vaccination but have to conduct trials.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's
Right.
my understanding of the situation.
Just a suggestion, you can make a vlog for the dinner party if it's happening tomorrow. That would be great if you can upload on YouTube. No, because I go into quite some detail about some rather interesting stuff that I wouldn't tell 1,000 people, but I'll gladly tell 15. And that's why you should come along. And we might even have a special guest tomorrow night. We don't know yet. There's a slim chance of something.
Could make a vlog. It doesn't necessarily have to contain content of the dinner.
Oh, what? Not like a live...
Yeah. You could make here's what the plan is.
I'd need someone to come and video that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else have I got here? Do you think Liberty and the FIA will somehow be able to shoehorn in and squeeze Vietnam and Bahrain? I'd like to think so, and I'm just hearing that Vietnam will go into that middle section of the summer break, which won't happen now because we'll have... What season is over there? Winter, spring. It'll be spring break. Spring break for you. Oh my God, must be so hard for setting it just for documentary. Also, good evening from Bandung, Indonesia. Says Nissa. Thank you, Nissa. Greetings from Tokyo, Arch. I love Tokyo. Just love the place. Like getting down to Akihabara and Ginza, Shinjuku train station. Completely different world. And lovely people, so yeah.
Mad Max, I've seen him ask this question a number of times.
And he also has these yellow squares on his square.
Makes it look like
he's really, he should be paying the super chat. Why don't give him one?
Did you photograph the trophies of the race?
No, but I did see them go in today, and I walked straight past it. It would be sad to see the trophies without any race. Yeah. Do you happen to know which parties were opting for the Grand Prix? No, I mentioned that earlier on. I didn't know that, unfortunately. AEC Media is more than happy to video your dinner. We are free tomorrow. Could you please, what do you call it? Direct message me
on Instagram.
At Instagram, sir. I might be able to take you up on that and owe you a favour. It's good to know that we've got someone from Lubbock, Texas, in the house. Is that Pint Jones? I think it is. We had double the number watching last night than tonight. I don't know what's going on. Greetings from Singapore, says Owen. Yes, I've seen you before, Owen. Blue Flag Alpha says cancel the season. No, I don't think we'll be cancelling the season. That would be devastating, I think. I read some reports today that Ferrari probably won't try that hard now, and they'll put all their energy into the new car. But talk's cheap, isn't it? It's all wank till it's in the bank. That's what a couple of people said. They'd never heard that phrase before. It's an Australian accounting phrase used by my good friend, an accountant in Perth, Western Australia, who shall remain nameless. But he may actually be up watching this. He's lost 18 kilos. Good luck to him. And not a bad golfer either.
Al Doe wants to know what your favourite song is.
Libertango by Grace Jones, or Ylang Ylang by J.K. Yeah, my son introduced that to me, my other son, the funny one that's back in Perth. Las Vegas, love the content. Mad Max is from Las Vegas. Tonight we just watched Vegas Vacation for the 11th time. Hope to see you at the French and Monaco GP. I don't think the Monaco GP is going to go ahead. I'd like it to. French GP, I will be there, staying in Bandol, lovely Bandol, on the beach there. Could have a little cocktail party on it. I've got a nice balcony at that place. It'd be good to catch up with some local French fans, and I know that the French operators are good people, Pierre and Eric Bull, and they'll be looking for some good numbers to that race, and I think that probably works to the favour of those races like Spa and France, where if you have this 4 or 5 races that are knocked out, people are going to have this pent-up excitement, and ticket demand, I would think, would be greater. Who knows? Life's strange, isn't it? Who would have forethought that a virus would cause so much drama to international sporting events? And really, there is no bigger sporting event, if you take out the Olympics, than Formula One. It's on the world stage. It goes everywhere. It's over 4 days. It's quite an amazing sporting event. And that's why I like shooting it so much. It has this lovely, colourful luster and interesting people. Everyone's so busy. What's the best looking car this year? I like the AlphaTauri. We say AlphaTauri, but the Europeans say AlphaTauri. Tauri, yeah. I like the race suits of Daniil and Pierre. I think the Racing Point race suits are too pink, overtly pink. Did you hear any word about Albert Park being set up again later in the year? Maybe it's the last race of the championship? I heard nothing like that. Now, Laxwi is once again advising everyone, please, to super chat to jump the queue of questions. For God's sake, this man is looking out for everyone here. He wants you to get your questions answered, and I have no choice but to focus on a question that comes up on Super Chat. So if you want to get to the head of the queue, don't muck about and hope, make sure you get to it. What else did I find interesting today? I felt that I was witnessing something quite remarkable, and I was very fortunate to be there, because there probably were only about, I'm thinking 50 photographers there. I counted about 25 journos wandering around. And it was remarkable because we're all talking to each other. What are you hearing? What are you hearing? And this is where I would have had hardly any information if it was my first year. But given that I'm into my fourth and I've made these connections, and I would get people come up and say, oh, here's this, or this is happening here. And it just makes what I do a lot simpler if people come to me with information. And obviously, I look after them with certain things, and it's a two-way trade. But that's what life's about. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And I was happy to get some of those tips today, because it meant I could pass them on to you. And I was pretty happy to see lots of comments. And there was probably at least a dozen along the lines of, we're getting more from you. Good night, Brie. We're getting more from you than we are from some of the media outlets. And I understand that, because those media outlet people aren't down in the paddock. And just to let you know how I was working today, I would take a photo on my camera, I would press a button, it would go up to my websites. I would then get it off my phone and in a Dropbox, and I would edit it just quickly on my phone. And that probably takes a minute. And then I would save it. I would go to Instagram, I'd put that photo in, and I'd voice to text a caption, then I'd go back and fix the 10 or 12 errors that they all have. I copy and paste some hashtags, and I post it. So really, I'm able, 5 minutes after I take a photo, to have that to you so that you can see it, because I know that you're sitting at home in Switzerland, in Sweden, or you're at the track waiting out the front, and no one's telling you anything. And you can have this information that I've only realised 5 minutes prior was happening. So yeah, I think that works very well. And I like the fact that I'm under that pressure. It's a fun thing to do. Rightio, getting back onto your questions. And thank you too to those people who started with us and kept right through. It's nice that I've managed to keep your attention at this time of day or night where you are in the world, because we have a worldwide audience, and all of you, I imagine, speak English, because I couldn't imagine this being too entertaining if you don't. Are you reading that one about the book? Rudy Van Rensburg, he's typed in capitals. There's a book called Fever Dreams by Dean Koontz that predicted the coronavirus outbreak in 2020. Whoa, a revelation. Were there any updates in the paddock about the agreement between FIA and Ferrari and the Gallic? No, I heard nothing. On technical stuff, I'm really not your man. You spent over an hour with Esteban before all of this unfolded. No, Pierre. Did you guys discuss the possibility? No, we didn't. We didn't mention that, did we?
I wasn't there. You were with Jace.
Pierre, at the...
I wasn't there. You went with Jace.
Oh, yeah, okay, right. Yeah, okay. I went with my other son. We'll get him on the phone. Still not too late. He'll be at a nightclub now. No, there was no chat of that. There was some very other interesting chat that I can't reveal. But, yeah, he's... I did take one good photo. Oh, I took a lot of good photos. Can you find that one where he's looking straight into the camera? Just search Pierre Jim. And we tried a bit of different stuff, and I quite like these shots, which it actually just flick through them. Yeah, just full screen them. This was at his hotel in the gym. I was invited up to shoot him and Piri, who's a lovely fella, and Piri really runs the show. He's the boss. When they get to the gym, even though Pierre is Piri's boss, yeah, this shot here is quite lovely because there's a 10 kilo weight dumbbell on his head with a towel to give him some sort of cushioning, and Piri actually puts a little bit of downward pressure as well, so it's 10 plus kilos of weight, and Pierre has to keep his head rock solid. And just go to that one where he's doing the, just flick through them and I'll tell you when to stop. That's a close-up shot. So there's the above shot there. He's pushing down on him. Keep going through them, please. Yeah, keep going. This little exercise here, and then I'll move around the front in a second. It's coming, keep going. That shot there, is he looking at me?
No, he's
There's
not.
the next shot.
There it is.
Yeah, that's a look of immense focus on the fella's face. Okay, so this is a sleep ring, and some of you may know about the sleep ring. If you want to get your question answered, please go on to Super Chat and demand my attention, otherwise we may get to your question. So this sleep ring sends information to his mobile phone about the amount of time he spends in bed, the amount of sleep time, how deep his sleep is, plus a myriad of other stuff. And he says it allows him to get more restful sleep than if he didn't have it. And I do see a couple of other drivers with those on, and people say, is that a wedding ring? And I've got no idea, but now that I've had a good close-up look at that one, you can actually zoom in on that, press the Z. Oh, you got to go into...
I got to do this.
Yeah, 8 to 1. I'll answer a question while he's doing that. When did you first start following F1, Kim? Well, I think I was mid-20s when I went to a race in Adelaide. I went with a mate of mine when I was in my early 20s. And I saw Senna race in Adelaide. Oh, I've got a story. Michael Schumacher was in the lounge after he'd won. I think I've mentioned this in one of my other videos. But he just won in Adelaide. He was in the Ansett lounge. I was in the lounge. I had a shirt on of his team over a T-shirt. I thought, all right, I'll get him to sign this. So I took that overshirt off, team shirt. He was on the phone. I just waited until he finished and got him to sign it, and that's now displayed in my office along with the front page of the Adelaide Advertiser from that particular race. Let's go back to one of your... that's a close-up of that ring.
Also, what lens were you using?
85.
You can tell it's your old 85, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got a bit of...
chromatic aberration, quite a lot of it.
Right. Your son is cute. Which one? Pullum Seti Aravind. Kim just joined the stream. That's not me because that's KIM and I'm a KYM. Oh, I can see your stuff on the side here, Tyler. That's great. Do you reckon the whole season will get cancelled? No, not unless the virus goes even worse than what it's doing now. Mark Thomas, you're most welcome. Thank you for that. What are you laughing at?
Someone said it's a surveillance ring so that Helmut Marko can keep an eye on the Red Bull drivers.
Yeah. Liberty cancelled the race, not the GP organisers. Now, on the press release, when I saw that, I looked and it said it was a joint decision, and my initial thought was, is that a liability thing? Is it if we both cancel it, does that help both parties with liability? I don't know. Maybe you know more than me. People can only know so much. Liberty, okay, yes. Can any team do any running such as media days or show runs? I'm not sure. Not sure at all. Glastonbury Festival cancelled just now too, says Lizardry Wizard.
As was the World Surf League.
Surf League,
Yeah.
yes. Looks like we're all just going to have to stay home for 2 weeks. Shut up shop and see if we can squash it by that. All major and minor sports and events of any kind cancelled here in the US. Yes, Heath, and your president has closed the borders to European flights, but not British flights. So if you're a European, I understand you could fly to Britain and then fly to America. Who would have thought? Hello, Kim. For the drivers that left, do you know where they all went? I don't know. Well, if it was true that Seb and Kimmy left, they went to Dubai, and then I imagine Seb would have gone back to Switzerland where he lives, and Kimmy perhaps back to where does he live in Monaco as well? I don't know. So apart from that, I don't know where any other drivers left, but you can have a look at their Instagram pages just like I can, and I'm sure you would be able to find out who's gone where. I wonder what Nico Hulkenberg thinks of all this, because he wouldn't have had to have undergone any drama over the last few days like the 20 blokes did here. What editing photography software do you use, says Super B63 AMG, Mercedes fan perhaps. I use Lightroom to edit my photos, and I use Photomechanic to bring them in. Photomechanic is a great program to quickly go and flick through photos, and Lightroom is all I need to edit. I don't use Photoshop because I don't have the time or the skills. I've got a couple of staff in Perth. If I need anything done with my graphics, with pictures that need extra editing, I send it to Nicole's or Christian. They are quite exceptional.
Kedar asked, can you do a video of your photography kit?
I've done one.
A very good one, in fact.
So there you go. The answer is yes, and you can see it. The moment we finish up here, you can go to, I reckon it was, well, they're on my channel now.
Yeah.
And you can go and find it. It's one is a kit. One is the kit that I take away, and the other is the gear that I've got. So yes, go and find it. Laxwy, thank you very much, mate. Stuck at home for 2 weeks. Why not jump the queue and get your question answered before everyone else? Super chat is the thing for you. I'm going to have to give him a commission because he's bumped up to 50 kronas. What's a krona worth? Work that out.
I'm not sure.
You spell it Kroner. I do know that. And I've never been to Sweden.
Okay.
Can you see the Aurora Borealis from Sweden, Laxwy?
It's a well-written call to action and rhetorical question
but
as well.
The Swedes have to speak English, like the Danes and Finns, because they are small countries, and if they don't speak English, they're the only people that speak their language. That's what I understand. I remember, who was it? Kimmy was asked, can you say something in Finnish to your audience? He said, they all speak English. I can say it in English, as Kimmy normally does. So thank you, Laxwy, for pushing the
Super chat.
The super chat. I'm just having a look at what we can see in the background here. There's quite a lovely picture up there of clouds on the wall. Yes, Tom.
Nemo G's super chat is really interesting. He asked, have you ever been asked to delete a photo?
Yep.
Yeah, and
I
think
have.
I know what you're going to talk about.
The one on the plane?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a couple of good stories, isn't there?
F1, no one. A couple of people have said, yeah, there was one instance at testing where I was taking a photo of a team member, and they'd done a prank to him, and I took the photo, and one of the PR girls came up and said, Kim, could you not use that? And I could have said, I'm going to use it, bugger you, but it's not worth it. It wasn't a great picture. It's never going to make me a fortune. I thought, I'll just say no. There was also one on a plane where I took a photo of the cabin for something, and this guy comes up and says, I don't want my photo being taken. I said, oh, it's a wide shot, so you're right at the back there or whatever. And he said, well, I don't want my photo taken. So I said, oh, I delete it. I pressed delete. But I only delete it off one card. So it's still on the other card. And I also had trouble once in France. Was it France? Yes, I went out and I was having dinner with one of the girls that's staying here. And we were sitting out on the street and I just took a photo of a couple walking towards me. And this woman went bunter. Crazy. You delete that, and it went crazy. And she knocked all the plates off our table, which brought the manager out, I think, and he's saying, oh, he's trying to keep the two parties apart. And I've got up and I've taken my camera and I've put it just inside the huge doors into our apartment. And I've rung my wife and said, come and get this camera. So she's come down and grabbed the camera, and this woman's going crazy. And within minutes, the cops arrived. And one takes me over here and one takes her over there, and we have this chat, and he says, well, you can't take her photo, so go and get the camera. So once again, I just surreptitiously, or no, covertly took out one of the memory cards and deleted off the other, because I've got two memory cards in the camera. And so Nemo, the result of that story is I kept the photo. I never used it, but I just like to have a little mental win. So thank you for your question, but nothing at F1 that I've been asked to delete. See, Nemo's worked it out that if you go and get onto Super Chat, you get VIP experience.
I actually had a funny one where I was taking some promotional pictures for a restaurant in Perth, and I was taking the pictures, and someone who was eating came over to me and said, can you delete those photos? And I said, yeah, sure, I've deleted them. And he said, no, I want to see them. So I took out the memory card and said, oh, I'm just just learning how to use my camera.
Okay, Brie Del Borello, who is in another bedroom here, has paid $7.99 Australian dollars to ask, will you come to Luna Park tomorrow? She has been harping all day about Luna Park, which is a fun park in Melbourne, down at St Kilda. And Brie, it's cost you $7.99 to hear no again. But I tell you, I will take you to breakfast. Laxwi from Sweden, lovely Sweden. Aurora Borealis can be seen from the north of Sweden. Also, we are taught English for at least 9 years in school. Plug Super Chat again. Shit, you're right. I've got to plug the Super Chat. This guy's a bit of a character. Is it a guy? Are you a male, Laxwi, or are you a female? Hard to tell from that photo. It appears, though, that your head is not connected to your body, which is a little bit odd. Oh, same as Brie. Her head's not connected either. Sweden. I think the closest we get to Sweden will be the Netherlands if we go this year. Right, let's take another question here. I've seen talk about extending the season into 2021.
Oh,
yeah?
That would be...
I don't know about that, floppy hairs. And that's H-A-R-E-S, not H-A-I-E. H-I-R, oh, you know what I'm saying anyway. Do you have another story from the morning of the announcement? Well, the announcement was just an email. And no, I don't. It was an email, it was quick out with the post, and then it was looking for signs of, you know, what pictures tell a story, and the pictures that tell a story are the packing up, the press conference with Christian Horner. It was great to be able to be that close, and I could hear what he said at the start, and then within a minute or so, half a minute or so, there was too many people around, and I was relegated to the back blocks. How long are you going to stay in Melbourne for? I'm going back on Monday. I was going back on Monday so I could fly out to Bahrain on Tuesday, but I'll just go back for a couple of months now. Brie Del Borello says, ha ha, Kim. Do drivers pay you to use your photos on their Instagram? Yes, they do. Says Isabel Nina Soriano. Scott Morrison Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison is on the half the season may be cancelled. Yes, really, there is no certainty over anything because you've got a virus that's not playing by the rules. In a normal situation where you know what's going on, you can make decisions. But when you've got something like this that is so out there, random and wild, you can't be proactive. You've got to be reactive at this stage with this sort of stuff. Live in Melbourne, look forward to next year, says Byron Hall 02. Well, it's 1:15. It's too late for you to be up. Should be asleep. In fact, most of the stuff that I do is aimed at Europe, and perhaps I should start doing more aimed at Australia, because this bullshit of having to get up at 4 a.m. in Perth to go and do a 5 a.m. hour and a half live stream is not that enjoyable, and it costs me some overtime for my staff. So maybe I should look at doing more in the middle of the Perth day. That would be nice. Although I'm actually blocked from my office when I get back. I can't go in for a few days because everyone thinks I may come back with some disease, despite the fact that I had no idea who that McLaren person was and would never have spoken to him. And the photographer that was tested, and we don't even know that was positive or negative. I never saw that person, didn't know him from a bar of soap. Okay, Michael Cherotti, what have you said? As much as I believe this is for public safety, the thing I'm mostly annoyed about is that there was no sense of authority. At times it seemed the government was involved with he said, she said. Yeah, I think that would be very interesting to see what went on behind the scenes in the closed offices. I mentioned earlier on that I think there would have been a lot of legal stuff, a lot of legal minds debating how it should pan out. And certainly the government is the stakeholder. And did I read today they put up $50 million? That's quite a bit of money. And that's $50 million where they're probably not going to get $50 million worth of value. I did notice, it was evident to me that when they did that press conference this afternoon at the track, they did it out in front of the Melbourne signage. And that's why they said nobody is to stand in front of the barriers because you blocked the Melbourne logo. And when the government's paid that much money, they need to see a return for that investment. And thank you to Louis Vuitton for my lovely scarves. You should buy them.
Rob Graham.
One person, then I saw 9. I think somebody could probably Google that and come up with an answer. Because if they don't run the right number of races, it doesn't matter how many points you get at the end of the season. You're not a world champion because it's not deemed to be a full season. West Coast Eagles or Fremantle, says Tam Taylor. West Coast Eagles, because messages on hold. Generals Football, if you've ever seen those big hands behind the goals with messages on hold written on them, that's my company. And that's what gave my business a start and was the best marketing I've ever done in my life. What do you think about buying hundreds of toilet rolls? Ben, it's a bizarre thing, isn't it? Absolutely bizarre. Laxwy is back in here with 50 Swedish kroners. Mail, indeed, my head is disconnected in real life as well. That's what I thought. Netherlands, you say. If only there is somewhere to eat dinner in Amsterdam. Super chat, do it. I'm actually having that dinner in Amsterdam, and I hope the hell that I can just postpone it to another weekend rather than having to disappoint all those people who have booked. And I think I've only got 2 seats left to that particular function. So let's hope we get there, my friend. And if you want to take a short hop across whatever that body is, the body of water, or is it landlocked? I can't remember. But yeah, you should come to Amsterdam and come and have dinner with us. It's at the Pulitzer Hotel. It's a beautiful room. I couldn't believe it was great value, lovely room, and we're down to 10% battery on this thing, but we should be fine. 8 is the minimum.
I was gonna ask where
Andre
they
Martins
found that number.
Yeah, Andre, tell us where you found 8.
And the next question right under that asks, how and where do you eat during a typical race day or race weekend?
At my desk or from my pocket. Well, in Europe, I'll often go to the Mercedes or Ferrari hospitality suite because we're fed there, and it's a 10-minute sit down, cameras on the ground, shovel some food in, and then go straight back out. We have media canteens in a couple of the media centres. The best one is in Austria, at the Spielberg track, where we get breakfast, lunch and dinner. In Melbourne, you get sandwiches in a cardboard packet with some plastic around it in the fridge. Actually, there's a photo of that if you go there today, Ty, because not too many people were eating, so there was lots of sandwiches. In Monaco, the rich and famous, the world's best city, swimming with money, they put a few ham baguettes. There's a picture of the fridge. Today. No, I didn't keep
today.
Just go today. They put a few baguettes in the morning with ham and again at lunchtime, and just as soon as that a cardboard tray goes down, 10 minutes later, all gone. But look, we're thankful for anything to eat, quite frankly. You just are there for 12 hours and you need something like when was it? The first day of this was Wednesday for me, and I had nothing to eat since about 9 a.m. and in the end I went to Alpha.
Now you can go.
Yeah, this is the lavish catering that we have access to at the Melbourne Grand Prix. It's quite magnificent, isn't it?
Yeah, and I find this to be one of the tougher bits from the races I've done. If you're out when they bring the food,
you miss out.
You miss out completely, and then you don't eat all day.
That's
and
it.
That makes it very difficult on a 13-hour day running around with camera gear.
Free schnitzel, says Rob Graham. We get schnitzels at Red Bull Ring. And then at the worst media room we have all year, which is at the Budapest track at the Hungara Ring, we get schnitzels, which are cold and just in a box. Just not even in a sandwich or anything. Not that I'm picking on them. I'm more than happy to have anything when we're busy. Well, we'll go for another 9 minutes and then we shall say goodbye to you, and you can go and do what you were doing before and dream of watching an F1 race. Kim, is this your dream job? It's a lovely distraction at the moment. It's a real challenge to see what can be done with building an audience and marketing content. So from that side of things, yeah, it's no complaints from this end, and you get to meet some interesting people and see some great places. And it was quite lovely today having a Friday off in the afternoon, because normally we roll in on a Wednesday afternoon, you get a couple of hours, dinner, go to sleep, and then 4 full days and you fly out Monday. Have you ever had an awkward moment with a driver? No. Awkward? No, I was only told once to stop shooting by Martin Poole, who's Nico Hulkenberg's trainer, and it was after he'd had an ordinary quali. And I'd taken a few pictures, and then I got down low and shot up, and he said, "That's enough, Kim." And I said, "Fine," and I took off. It was, I had a good relationship with those guys and loved it. Have the team signed contract for 2021 and beyond? Asks, I will change my name later. I don't know. I don't know if they have or not. I read an article, and look, I probably know as much as you, that there is negotiations going on now, and there's no guarantee that Liberty will get all of the teams signed up. So hearsay, and I don't know. I remember Monaco press room, we got those sandwiches, can't spell it, says Mrs. Flower. Yeah, they are bloody shocking. And the press room is up in an old building near the port. It's not too badly placed, but it's certainly no lifestyles of the rich and famous there. Will you be doing any tours of yourself in the UK? Tours of myself? No. Well, actually, I'm going to London for that function, or having a dinner in London prior to the Silverstone race on the Tuesday night, because I'm just not sure I'd find anywhere out near the track that I'd want to have it. And I think people stay in too wide a radius. And I've got about 1% of my Instagram audience comes from London. So I thought, let's go to London. Hopefully you'll come along. What do you think of the Orange Army? Incredible. There's no other driver that has that mass support. So well done to Max Verstappen for developing that. Thank you for your question, Anna Gronenboom. Cerveza gratuita. That's free beer. That's my limited Spanish, if indeed that is Spanish. Henry Pine, you're right. The onboard audio was off pretty much 90% of the time. It was frustrating the first episode, and the Ferrari one was somewhat dull. Well, I didn't even see what that referred to because I wasn't looking, so forgive me, that makes sense to perhaps two people there. Where do you think the Italian teams are going? I don't know. Ben, where do you think they're going? How are they going to get back in? I imagine they're nationals, so they can get back into the country. Surely you don't bar your nationals from coming back in. I haven't done a lot of reading. And Jovan, I don't know whether the banking at Zandvoort will give me some opportunities for some new cool photo angles. Until we get there, I think it's going to be tricky to find out. But I'm still going. I might still go to Vietnam, if not to photograph the race, to perhaps just have a holiday. It might give me an opportunity to do some advance reconnaissance. We have 4 minutes left to go, so if you want to get... any stories on Peter Van Egmont? Yes, I'll give you a story. He's a lovely fellow, and it was my first time photographing trackside. It was testing in 2017, and I thought, I'll stay right till the very end. And they had shuttle buses that ran around the outside of the track, and I was right around the back of the track, not the back of the track, but I had a long way to go to get back to the media centre, and the session finished at 6 o'clock. And I thought, oh my God, I've got about a 15-minute walk here. And he was driving his car, because we're allowed to drive our cars around the track at testing. And he stopped and said, "You want a lift?" And I said, "Thank you very much." That's how I met Peter. He is, of course, well connected to Max Verstappen. If you want to get in with a super chat question, you might want to do it quickly because there's 3.5 minutes to go. Rob Graham says, Drive to Survive Season 2 was disappointing. I thought some of the episodes perhaps lacked a little bit, but I thought others was supremely powerful, particularly the one with Antoine Hubert's death at Spa. And the vision that got me was the interview with Lewis Hamilton when he was being interviewed in the media pen and the crash happened, and he looked up, and I thought that really made him... It changed. I think that would have changed a lot of people's impressions of Lewis. He was so caring and genuine and focused on that, and to the detriment of the interview. He'd lost interest in the interview, and to me that was a really lovely moment to watch, not for obviously the sadness of the death, but just for showing Lewis up in a great light, and I think that did him the world of good. The Lake District in the UK, that's where Malcolm Tanner lives. First class media from you and your son. Well done, Tyler. Looks like Lewis will be on the back foot this year to beat Michael Schumacher's, Michael's race records. I did plan on going to Vietnam. Pleased I didn't. Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have been there now. You wouldn't get there that early. So, good thing you didn't book to go. Yeah, and Michael Chirotti, if I ever need a free set of hands to help out at a race, more than happy to. I'll get that 5 times a week. Somebody wants to be my intern. I don't need an intern. It would be more trouble than it's worth, and I can't get a accredited person. I can only get me accredited at the moment, so that's probably not going to be of any use to anyone else. That interview with Hamilton Spa was tragic. That part of the episode hit me hard. It hit everybody hard. And on the day, I was in the media centre editing some photos, and then there was this just hushed silence and everyone looked up at the screens because we get to see all that stuff live in the media centre, and they replayed it a couple of times, and then they stopped looking at it, and then 5 or 6 came around, and they were all dissecting it and working out what had gone on, and it was pretty obvious that it was savage. And then when I remember driving back across the bridge in the media bus, we could see up the top to where the accident happened, and all the emergency vehicles there all had the flashing lights, and it was very obvious that it was something very wrong. And then I got back to the hotel, and I saw Charles Leclerc's post. So that was when I realised that he'd passed away. But I did happen to speak to some other guys who saw the data for the crash, and it was crazy figures that nobody could have survived. But his mother was very brave, as was his brother and mother on the Sunday at the track, and that was the only time I probably cried at a race meeting. Right. With that, one last question. What shall we pick here? Anything here that grabs my fancy? Have you ever been to Phillip Island Circuit? Godot 2305, fantastic track to photograph. Never photographed it. I went on an Audi R8 track day where we got to drive them around the track. 2 of us shared a car for a few hours, and it was fantastic. So with that, I must bid you a fond adieu. I have no commitments tomorrow, except for my dinner with 17 lovely people at a restaurant here in Paran, which was just down the road from the track. And had we have been racing, I would have had to have shot all day, edited until about 7:30, had what we call a pommy wash at the track, and then go straight to the restaurant. So that's not going to happen. I can just lounge around for the day. And one quick super chat from, is that Laxwy?
Laxwy,
yeah. Hello, who is desperate to go to Luna Park tomorrow. To all of you who stayed up late in Australia and got up early in, what would that be in America? Possibly up early in America. And to all my European friends, thank you, and we will talk again at some point when we've got something to say. Good evening.
Yeah, so it's just going to take...
Cheers.